Hey friends, welcome back to another product review video. It is no secret that I have fallen in love with rebounding over the last year. I have shared my journey with that and shared my very first starter rebounder and then my second upgrade rebounder. And so when Kensone reached out to me and asked if I wanted to check out their rebounder and give my review, I jumped, pun intended, at the opportunity. If you start looking into rebounder options online, you will very quickly find that there is a huge variation in price. The top of the line brands, I mean, they can go up to $1,000 for a rebounder, and then you go to Amazon and you can find some for under $100. Sometimes it's really hard to know what really is worth the money. Of course, if you have all the money in the world to work with, you can just go with one of the top of the line brands that everyone raves about. But if you want to keep things a little bit more affordable, it can be a really hard balance between finding something that's affordable but still good quality, or just wasting your money on something that actually isn't going to be a good long-term product or is going to wear out quickly. So I'm hoping that as I build a few more reviews here online of different brands and different models, that I can help you guys if you are in the camp of looking for something more affordable but also not wanting to just buy junk. So the model that Kensone sent me is their KB U-Bar 48 inch. They have both 40 inch and 48 inch, and that's very common with a lot of brands, that the 40 inch and the 48 inch are just kind of the most common sizes that you'll see. My very first rebounder was a 40 inch and my second two now have been 48 inch. And I do recommend the larger size if you can, if you have space for it. It just makes me feel a lot more secure on my rebounder, knowing that I have a lot of room to work with. And then also from what I hear and what I've experienced going from a 40 inch to a 48 inch is that the bounce is just a little bit nicer on the 48 inch. You have more room and the bungees have more room to like stretch all the way out with the larger size. The rebounder came all packaged up and folded. It is a foldable rebounder. So I pulled everything out and made sure everything was there, which it was, and then I put it together. It was not difficult to put together, but it did take a little bit of time and elbow grease. There were a few of the bungees attached already, so I didn't have to do all of them, but I still had to do a fair amount. But they do give you a little tool that helps you to attach the bungees, so it actually, once you get the hang of it, is very, very simple and easy. So like I said, this rebounder is foldable, but I do want to mention that it is not easily foldable. It's not the kind of thing where you're going to want to fold it up every day after you use it and put it away. You have to unscrew the legs, which is not that big of a deal, but then you also have to take off at least half of the bungees in order to fold it. So it's just not very feasible to do that on a daily basis. If you do need to store it for a long period of time, it is a nice option to store it easily, but I wouldn't recommend counting on folding it up every day. The way that I like to kind of store my rebounder out of the way is just lean it up against a wall. They're super light, so that's easy to do. Also, you can just unscrew all of the legs and then it's, flat on the ground. And if you have a bed or, kind of a wide couch, you could just slide it right under there. That's another option for storage more on a daily basis. So I am going to get on the rebounder and kind of show you what the bounce looks like here in a minute, but I want to go over just some of the features real quick. So the frame size is that 48 inches, and that means that the mat size is 36 inches, which is, gives you a lot of nice room to work. It has 4 bungee cords on the rebounder, and then they give you 2 extra just in case something breaks or wears out, and that's what they look like. Like I mentioned, they give you the tool to apply the bungees, and then they also give you a little hook tool to remove the bungees, so that just makes it super simple. The weight capacity is 550 pounds, so it will work for a very wide range of people. And then I wanted to mention that depending on your own weight, the bounce will feel either softer or firmer. So if you are a very light person, you might want to find a rebounder that has a very soft bounce. But if you are heavier, the heavier you are, the softer the bounce will feel, even if the rebounder has a firm bounce. With my experience with the other rebounders that I have used, I would describe the bounce of this rebounder as a medium firmness bounce. My first rebounder was a 40 inch and the bungees were like smaller. And so it kind of felt like when I bounced, I would get to the the end of the bounce and there'd be kind of a jarring effect. That's why I do recommend looking for a rebounder that has bigger bungees, because you want to be able to bounce without maxing out the bungees and getting that like jarring effect. You want it to be like a very smooth bounce. And I think part of getting that smooth bounce is having the bigger bungees. My second rebounder that I have done a review on here on the channel has two different tensions of bungees that it comes with. And I would say that the bungees on the Kensone are very comparable to the firm bungees on my Softland Beacon. And both of those are a little bit softer than my first rebounder, which was the Anchier 40-inch. And so that's why I kind of describe this one as a medium bounce. It's not the firmest I have had, but it's not one of the super, super soft ones. And like I mentioned, you want to take your weight into account when you're choosing your firmness, but then also firmness and softness comes down to a personal preference also. If you're using your rebounder for a lot of high intensity exercise or doing exercise videos where you really want to stay on the beat with a certain workout, then you're going to want a little bit firmer of a bounce like the Kensone. If you're wanting just a really leisurely, soft, just relaxing bounce, then a softer bounce would be a great choice. I prefer a soft to medium bounce, so the Kensone is great for being at the little bit higher range of firmness of what I prefer. But like I mentioned, I don't get to the end of the bungees, if that makes sense, with my Kensone. It's a really, really smooth, even though it is firm, it is not a jarring bounce, which is something you want to look for because that can be a little bit rougher on the joints. We love rebounding because it is so gentle on the joints. So having that bungee that is firm but also not jarring is really important. And I feel like Kensone is very, very smooth with the bounce. No complaints whatsoever. This model does come with a U-bar, and I did film myself putting that on to the rebounder so you can see what it looks like. The handlebars are fantastic for if you have balance issues, if you're just getting started with rebounding and you really want to make sure that you know what you're doing and you're not going to fall. Having that handlebar is a really, really good resource. The handlebar is also really good if you're going to do a lot of high intensity training on the rebounder. You can, get a faster jump and get more power if you're holding on to the handles. I tend to use my rebounder as like zone 2 cardio. I'm not doing a lot of high intensity interval training on it. I kind of just like to do a leisurely bounce while I'm watching, a YouTube show or something like that. So I prefer to use my rebounder without the handle, but that is just a personal preference. So you can see that the Kensone has a mat that covers up the bungees. This is a great choice for if you have little bitty kids that are going to be enjoying your rebounder. Little tiny feet could maybe fall through the bungees and cause some trouble. Personally, I don't worry about that for myself. My feet aren't really going to fall through the bungees. And I do like the look, like the clean look of no mat, but the mat doesn't bother me. And I do like the fact that if I have little bitty kids that are playing on it, I don't really have to worry about any little foot slippage. So now I'm going to give you a view of the bounce, and you can kind of see how far my feet go down as I'm bouncing. Also, listen for the sound. You can hear, a little bit of swooshing of the bungees, a little bit of a swoosh from the mat, but it is very, very quiet. The mat material is very nice and smooth. The stitching seems to be great. No issues with fraying or coming undone or anything. You can see the hooks on here are metal, which is fantastic. The quality of all the pieces seems to be really top notch. One thing to remember with any rebounder that has screw-on legs, just to make sure that you're checking periodically to make sure they are screwed in all the way. You wouldn't want to be bouncing without them really tight. I have not found that they loosen up very quickly. I've used this rebounder quite a few times, and when I check it, it's not like they're halfway loose or anything. They're usually still pretty tight, but that's just one thing that you always want to check on any rebounder with screw-on legs. So for the price, I am very impressed with the quality of the Kensone Rebounder. If you don't have hundreds and hundreds of dollars to work with to get a rebounder, this is definitely a great option. And Kensone gave me a coupon code, just Indigo, and that will get you an additional 10% off of your order. And I did check, and it does stack on top of the sale price that is currently on the website. I will have all of the details and links in the description below if you want to check it out. Thanks again to Kensone for sending me this to review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope it gave you more info on how to get going with rebounding at an affordable price. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.